this video, I'm going to be sharing my best tips on setting up a desktop CNC router machine to get the best results on your projects. Hey everyone, welcome to the Laser Channel where we learn, create, and share. My name is Greg, and today I'm sharing all of my best secrets on getting these desktop CNC router machines set up for the best performance. I'm going to be demonstrating all the tips and tricks in this video on the ASCARVA 4S by Acmer. And don't worry, if you've got another brand of CNC router machine, what I'm sharing with you today will apply to those other machines as well. And with that, let's get started. I like to start by making sure my machine has a nice solid foundation, and that all begins with a nice square frame. I'll start out with the X and the Y axes down in the build and engraving area before moving up to the gantry for the spindle head. Once the base of the machine is all nice and square, it's time to move on to the Z axes or the spindle assembly. Where possible, I like to put a nice straight pin within the collet and actually measure the squareness off of that pin against the bed of the machine. For machines where it's hard to get a tool bit in there to check the squareness of everything, it might make more sense to just completely remove the clamp for the spindle motor and measure off of the head assembly itself. Simple but often overlooked is tightening all the frame bolts. For this, the perfect tool is one of these Allen sockets. These do an awesome job of being able to really get a proper tightness on all the screws without stripping the heads out. Next, I'll check and adjust the spindle head for any free play. I'll wiggle it from side to side and tilt it front and back. I want to make this as tight as possible without the assembly binding. The ASCARVA S4 has two brass nuts. We're going to check out the top one right here, and if I loosen up this bolt right here, I can tighten that nut down just a little bit, and that can take out a lot of slop within the head assembly. That slop should really be taken out with these two guideposts, one on each side, but for some reason, tightening up that brass nut right in the middle seems to add a lot more rigidity to this assembly. The next area I'm going to check out is the back of the machine. I'm going to check and adjust the guide wheels. It's going to be the two wheels on the bottom that are adjustable. I'll check and adjust both the wheels. We're going to take a look at the one closest to us because I've got a good camera view on it, and the little wheel, I've got some silver lines on it, so when I move the assembly by hand, nice and slow, we'll see that the wheel does in fact move. I'll also check it by putting my finger on that wheel with some light pressure and making sure that it still moves. This makes sure it has just the right amount of tension going into the frame rail. If I find I need to make this wheel a little bit tighter, I'll grab one of the wrenches that came with the machine, and there's a little hex back here, and I can turn that hex, and what it's going to do is lobe that drive wheel around, and making it tighter and looser. I'll make sure that I've got the same tension on both sets of the wheels. I'll check the Y-axis as well. On the ASCARVA S4, there's going to be 4 of these drive wheels on the bottom per side for a total of 8 on the machine. When working around the wheels, I like to make sure that they're nice and clean along with the V-track. This is also a good time to check the belt tension on both the X and the Y axes. For this, I just poke my finger on that belt and I should feel a little bit of deflection. I want to have the same tightness on the left side and the right hand side of the machine as well as the Z axes. This system of the wheels, the belt, and the V-groove in the frame requires no lubrication. It just needs to stay clean all the time. Now, if your machine looks a little bit different and you have a lead screw or a ball screw for any of the assemblies, simply clean those off and apply some fresh grease, which is usually going to be silicone grease, but check with the manufacturer for the recommended type. These name badges are super popular, but they require the bed of the machine to be perfectly flat to the spindle assembly, and that's because we're only engraving into the material a tiny little bit. For most projects, The bed area of the machine is going to be flat enough, especially if I'm just making some signs like this one that I was practicing off camera. But for smaller, more delicate stuff like name badges like this, where the depth and the flatness of everything has to be spot on, for that, I'll put a flat milling bit in the chuck, and then I'll actually mill down a nice flat area within the bed area of the machine. I only need to go down just far enough so that the bit is traveling or cutting into the material of the spoiler board just a little bit, ensuring that when I tape this down to the board, it is perfectly flat for that delicate engraving work. If I had a larger machine or my collet took a larger bit than the 1/8 inch that this would take, I would typically just surface the entire bed of the machine. That way I don't have to worry about always having a project in a little spot pocket area. Speaking of the spoiler board, I really like the one on this machine. There's all these tie down points. There's threaded inserts that are recessed into the surface, and I really don't want to start marking up the surface, so we're going to move on to my next tip. For this, I'm going to add another spoiler board on top of this spoiler board. I'll secure it down with a handful of clamps. Not only does this method make it really easy to install the spoiler board, it's also very quick and easy to replace it. Now, I could always go back to Acme and rebuy these spoiler boards, but I just don't really want to do it, and this is just so much more convenient. Moving on to clamps, they're a great way to secure material down to the bed area. I usually reserve them for putting down my spoiler board. I found that when I use the clamps on my project material, they tend to leave little marks on that. So in order to attach this down to my spoiler board, I enlist the help of some double-sided carpet tape. A piece or two on the back, and then stick it down in place, holds it securely down for the project. And it's also great when I'm also doing a profile cut to cut out the shape within my project. Removal is easy with a nice putty knife. I recommend getting one of the thinner ones that you could find. This one is pretty rigid, but it still does the trick for getting it to pop off the spoiler board. If you're finding carpet tape isn't doing the trick for you, there's another method which uses some blue painter's tape. This painter tape comes in and width starting at about 3/4 of an inch, and I've seen this stuff get as wide of about 6 to 8 inches wide. This is going to be about 2-inch wide stuff, and I just do this very quickly here. I'll just put down 2 pieces, and normally I'd cut the ends off with scissors, but for the sake of moving the video along, I'm just tearing it by hand. I'll take this roller, it's a briar, I'll make sure that the tape is nice and flat. And then I'll take 2 more pieces of tape, and I want to make sure that they line up with the 2 pieces of tape I put on my work material. And once again, I'll roll it out flat. Now to make sure that the 2 stick, because now nothing's going to happen now, I'm going to use some Gorilla Gel Super Glue. I'll put down a little drizzle, a little wave down the middle, a little wave down the other middle, and then flip the 2 over, and I'll kind of wiggle this top piece a little bit and then apply some firm pressure on the top while the glue sets. And same as with the carpet tape, once the project's all complete, I can do a relief cutting on the top, pocket milling, and I can even cut all the way down to the spoiler board. And for the removal, once again, I'll grab a thin putty knife and wiggle it underneath one corner to pop it off. And what's going to happen is I'll either peel the tape off the spoiler board or the tape from the project material will be stuck down. In either case, the removal is very easy. Tooling. Used bits go back into the case, but instead of going upright like the rest of them, used bits go in upside down, making it very easy to identify what's brand new versus slightly used. Once I've got a couple used bits in here, I'll take the first one and I'll start chucking those away. And when I get down near the end, of course, it's a good indication I should probably order some more. When running a CNC router, I end up doing a lot of measurements, so I like to keep on hand a nice steel ruler. I'm in the United States, so I like to have one with inch on one side and millimeter on the other side. For depth and thickness measurements, I need some more precision way of measuring things, and for that, a dial calipers. Now these can range from about $20 to $30 upwards of several $100s for a machinist ones. For what we're doing, working with wood and different composite materials, a $20 or $30 dial caliper will work perfectly. Now we're on to my biggest and best tips that I can offer for all of you. And the really cool thing is it doesn't pertain to any particular machine. It's more of a state of mind type thing, starting out with to just practice with the machine. Practice setting it up, practice going through the workflow of the software, and to remember to have fun and enjoy the experience. I like to approach it with the same eagerness and vigor when I was shopping on the internet for my CNC router. I keep a journal book of documenting what works and also what doesn't work on different types of material and different types of software that I'm trying out as I'm diving in and learning everything about a CNC router machine. I highly recommend using MDF material. It's easy to find, it's easy to machine, and it's super cheap. And in a lot of cases, I'll keep this as the final material, especially when the project gets painted. Here's an example of a completed project using MDF material. I painted this first with some acrylic spray paint, then machined it, and the results look great. Try other software packages. Most of the software packages offer us users a free 30-day trial to learn their software and helps us learn our machine. Once that time period's up, I recommend trying a different software package that's going to have different features with it, maybe a different interface, and maybe that works better with my style of learning and maybe the types of projects that I'm creating. And saving the best for last is take your time. Things are going to take longer at first. Speed is going to come with understanding the process of setting up the material within the machine and the workflow within the software. But in no time, you'll be creating projects in a fraction of the time from when you first started out. Did I miss something? Let me know down below by leaving a comment. Thanks for joining me in this video. I had a blast sharing some of the knowledge I have with you, and hopefully that's going to get you up and running, making better projects on your CNC router. If you liked what you saw in this video, don't forget to show it some love by giving it a like or subscribing to the channel. Not only is it a great way to help this channel grow, it's an awesome way to connect video content like this with other great people just like you. And until we meet again in the next video, I'm Greg from the Laser Channel, where we learn, create, and share.